Nintendo. A name synonymous with imagination and adventure. A company whose reputation is only surpassed by its stories, characters, and icons. From school grounds to living rooms to esports, Nintendo has cemented itself as a household name. Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. These are only a few of Nintendo's franchises that have influenced not only the gaming world, but also popular culture.
Eat my dust, racially stereotypical plumber.
Toys, movies, a vast empire of licensed items. While in later years Nintendo's image as the premier gaming company has been challenged by other juggernauts, the industry can never deny Nintendo's historical role in pioneering the genre, something that has far surpassed anyone's expectations.
Nintendo is fun.
Now I know how you're spending the holidays, watching Nintendo.
Playing it.
A powerhouse of dreamers of yesteryear and the innovators of tomorrow. Nintendo's story is one as grand as that of any of its virtual tales. This is the story of Nintendo then and now. Nintendo's notoriety as a game and console developer is well known among the avid and casual gamer, as is the company's reputation for having brought the market out of the crash of the 80s. However, it is often overlooked that Nintendo's history actually began some 400 years ago. 1633, under the rule of Shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu, Japan entered into an era of extreme isolation, secluding the country from the rest of the world. During this time, numerous prohibitions were imposed, as well as forbidding anyone from entering or leaving Japan under penalty of death. Among these prohibitions came the strict enforcement against rising gambling. While card games were not initially banned, any that became associated with or were used for the purpose of gambling were branded as illegal. Even so, this did not prevent new card games from emerging that prolonged the illicit act. The seclusion of Japan from the rest of the world would last more than 200 years, until a trade treaty was signed with the United States in July of 1858. Fusajiro Yamamuchi, born November 22, 1859 in Kyoto, Japan. History does not speak much of his early life. However, by the tail end of his late 20s, seeking to make a living, Fusajiro established himself as an intrepid entrepreneur. He had set his ambitious sights on a failing, if not otherwise doomed, market, that of card gaming. After a 250-year prohibition on card games, the Japanese government finally lifted the ban. Fusajiro, confident that his card game was innovative enough to reinvigorate the card game industry, was intent to share his love with the rest of Japan. His game was called Hanafuda, or flower cards. Rather than the established design of suits and numbers, Hanafuda utilizes decorative images. The deck has 12 suits representing each month of the year and designated by a seasonal flower such as cherry blossom for March or iris for May. These image associations are poetic or symbolic in nature, tracing back to Japanese folklore. Each suit then has 4 cards with varying point values. The goal of the game being image association, by which the players make card combinations to earn the most points. Without investors, Fusajiro was on his own, so every Hanafuda card was carefully handcrafted and painted on mulberry tree bark by Fusajiro himself. But to distribute Hanafuda, he needed to establish his own card company while also marketing it to the public. So in September of 1889 in Kyoto, Japan, Fusajiro Yamamuchi founded Nintendo Koppai. The exact meaning of the company's name has long since been debated. Koppai translates quite easily and literally as playing cards. However, Nintendo is a more difficult riddle. The general consensus is that Nintendo is translated as leave luck to heaven or leave one's fortune in the hands of fate. This interpretation has been adopted by the gaming giant of today, although it has been openly admitted that it is unclear what Fusajiro Yamauchi's original meaning was. The 2012 book, The History of Nintendo 1889 to 1980 by Florent Gorges, puts forward a more complex but intriguing interpretation. It's a case of a play on words that, if followed carefully, reveals a very different Nintendo from what we know today. The Japanese kanji characters that make up the word can be broken down to nin, ten, and do. Nin would translate as let someone do or to be allowed. Do would translate as shrine or sanctuary. This is used often by Japanese companies to add prestige to their name. So you might say that the interpretation is allowed to make flower cards. Perhaps, except that the use of ten comes from tengu, which both share the same kanji symbol. But what is tengu, you might ask? In popular Japanese folklore, tengu is a type of yokai or mischievous spirit, most prominently known for its red face and long nose. Furthermore, the tengu often represents gambling. The association came about since during the prohibition of card games, those who sought out gambling quarters would sign to one another by rubbing their nose. Furthermore, nose and flower are both represented by the kanji character of Hana, as in Hanafuda. It may seem like a stretch, but the cultural context is undoubtedly impeccable. So for some, Nintendo would be interpreted as allowed to make gambling cards. As it stands, there is no proof of this theory. However, given Fusajiro's business prowess, it is an incredibly plausible theory. In one fell swoop, the name Nintendo would announce to the public that the company was selling cards. Yet on the other hand, the name would entrance the Yakuza gambling rings to use Nintendo Hanafuda cards. And that is exactly what happened. Card games, which had fallen into decline, were swiftly revived through the gambling parlors. Hanafuda took the country by storm and single-handedly revived the once doomed card game market, while also setting a precedent for Nintendo in its long history to come. However, this was only the start of Nintendo's history.